how's it going everybody? In the spirit of the newly released GTA 6 trailer and delay, I started to think more about some of Rockstar's older titles and the content that was cut from them due to time constraints or just them overall not fitting with the game's story or general theme. And it became quite apparent to me pretty quickly that Rockstar has a habit of leaving a lot of unused content in their game files. As a result, data miners have been able to extract a lot of files that either hint at or are outright unused/cut content. And fitting into my channel's theme of talking about darker, more morbid topics, I've decided to explore the more disturbing side of Rockstar's cut content and compile them into a list for your viewing enjoyment. So sit back, grab a snack, and let's explore disturbing content cut from every Rockstar game. Grand Theft Auto 3. Children and School Bus NPCs. It is speculated that Grand Theft Auto 3 would have featured children NPCs and yellow school buses on the streets of Liberty City. This pre-release screenshot shows a functional school bus driving in the street, and in the final game, we can find these school buses as wreckage models. Potentially, the yellow school buses were repurposed as props after the drivable versions were removed from the final game. It's also speculated these were removed to avoid the obvious controversy of violence against children in a GTA game. And it's important to note that no child models remain in the game files, suggesting that Rockstar scrubbed them out entirely. The school buses were left only as props, and Rockstar has flatly denied any mission involving harming children. In the end, whether kids ever were planned to appear as NPCs was never officially acknowledged. Darkel. GTA 3 originally featured a character by the name of Darkel, a deranged homeless man who would give the player violent kill frenzy style missions. In one such mission, which was previewed in an IGN article before release, Darkel had Claude steal an ice cream truck, lure crowds of pedestrians, and then detonate a bomb to massacre them. This was naturally deemed too extreme and, quote, tonally a little odd, leading Rockstar to cut Darkel and his mission strand a few months before release. Notably, Rockstar later clarified that Darkel's removal was a design choice unrelated to the 9/11 attacks, and that, quote, none of his missions involved blowing up buses of school children, which is in reference to what we talked about earlier. We can actually get an idea of what these missions would have played like in the final game, as the Darkel ice cream truck mission was repurposed into the mission I Scream You Scream in the final game, with the innocent pedestrians being replaced by gang members. Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Mr. Moffat. Very little is definitively known about the character of Mr. Moffat, who was seemingly cut from Vice City late in development. Unused phone call text associated with him can be found in the game files. The text implies that Mr. Moffat is reaching out to Tommy for help in escaping whoever is chasing him, potentially law enforcement, or possibly even the mafia, which was hinted at when Tommy asks him, "How's family life?" What makes this particularly disturbing is what Mr. Moffat insinuates during his phone call with Tommy, saying things like, "Get me out of here before they take me back," and "No man should have to do such things." This is all that we know about Mr. Moffat and the potential missions tied to him. All we can do is speculate at what the rescue mission could have possibly looked like and why Mr. Moffat was hunted down in the first place. What we do know for certain is that he's extremely distressed and terrified of those hunting him down, who most likely made him do unspeakable things, as hinted at when he said, "No man should have to do such things." The Kill All Haitians mission objective. Vice City resulted in real-world outrage for a mission line ordering the player to, quote, kill all the Haitians. Haitian American groups would then go on to condemn this as hate speech. Responding to the outrage, Rockstar released a statement vowing to remove the offensive dialogue from future copies of the game. Quote, "We believe that recent media coverage has taken certain statements made in the game out of context. Nevertheless, we are aware of the hurt and anger in the Haitian community. We will remove the objectionable statements from future copies of Grand Theft Auto Vice City." In the revised script, which can be found in the mobile port of Vice City, targets are referred to more generally as gang members, eliminating the explicit ethnic references. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Hot Coffee Hidden Sex minigame. The most notorious piece of cut content in Rockstar Games history is the infamous Hot Coffee sex minigame. Originally, Rockstar created a sex minigame for CJ and his girlfriends. It was not only fully animated, but even included partial nudity. To avoid an adults-only rating, they disabled access to this minigame in the final 1.0 release of the game. However, in typical Rockstar fashion, they left the code for the minigame in the game files. Modders later unlocked it, revealing scenes far more explicit than anything in prior or even future GTA titles. The discovery caused a firestorm, and San Andreas was temporarily rated AO, adults only, and recalled from store shelves until the minigame code was fully removed from the game files. Rockstar claimed that the scenes were unfinished leftovers, despite the fact that they were quite definitely finished but just disabled in the final release. This is not disturbing in the traditional sense, but it is pretty weird that Rockstar were genuinely considering adding a fully interactive sex minigame to San Andreas. Manhunt. The Clowns. During the development of Manhunt, Rockstar planned to include a gang of killer clowns as one of the main groups of hunters that the player would encounter in-game. The clowns are a cut gang from Manhunt and were supposed to be the final group of hunters that James Earl Cash, the protagonist, would encounter. They would have most likely made an appearance in a level that featured the Carcer City Museum. What makes the clowns particularly disturbing is their face paint and general horrific demeanor. They are described in the design document as laughing and shouting as they pursue runners, mainly for the entertainment. They were also supposed to be high off amphetamines as they pursued James Cash. The sponsor of the clowns, who was most likely supposed to act as some sort of boss fight for the player, is a man by the name of James W. Gacy. If that name sounds familiar, it's because it's based off of John Wayne Gacy, the real-life killer clown who and murdered 33 boys and young men. Multiplayer. Manhunt is infamous as a single-player sadistic stealth game that involves the player murdering hunters in the most gruesome ways possible. But what if you could also brutally murder other players online? In the PS2 version of Manhunt, several text files contain reference to a removed multiplayer mode. Not much else is known about how multiplayer was supposed to work, but we could speculate that it may have involved players hunting one another, similarly to how Cash would hunt killers in the base game. Manhunt 2. Frisbee. In the early story concepts for Manhunt 2, Frisbee was supposed to be a puppet-like character that would manipulate the protagonist, forcing him to kill people. This idea was eventually scrapped during development, but traces of Frisbee remain in the game's code. One leftover command called Frisbee Speech Play appears to trigger Leo-related dialogues, suggesting that Leo eventually replaced Frisbee as the voice in Daniel's head. Frisbee also appears in concept art by Steve Walsh, depicted as a creepy Muppet-style doll. Model and texture data for Frisbee were discovered in the PSP .01 prototype build, confirming that the character progressed beyond the initial planning stages. There are also indications that Frisbee was originally tied to MKTV. In fact, one early version of the in-game show titled Frankie and the Freaks was called Frisbee and the Freaks. It is possible that the puppet originated from an in-universe television show created either by the project or Daniel himself. Bully. Showdown at the Plant, Jimmy death scenes. In the mission Showdown at the Plant, Jimmy Hopkins chases down Edgar, which leads to the second last boss fight in the game. Originally, if Edgar won the fight, he would throw Jimmy into a vat of green chemicals, which would kill him. Edgar would then begin taunting Jimmy as he burned in the acid.
That burns, doesn't it?
This version of the boss fight was obviously scrapped in the final release of the game, most likely due to the concerns over maintaining the game's teen rating and preserving its overall tone. Depicting a student being killed in such a dramatic and graphic way would most likely have conflicted with Bully's more comedic and exaggerated tone, which would have pushed the narrative into a much darker realm than Rockstar would have liked for the final release. GTA 4. Cut Animals. Early plans for GTA 4 included police canine units and perhaps other animals, but Rockstar removed them in the final release. Design notes indicate that if a player earned a 1-star wanted level and fled on foot, canine units were supposed to start chasing the player. And obviously, Rockstar cut the canine feature out entirely, as no dog models exist in GTA 4's files. This could be to cut out what would have turned into an annoying encounter, as canine units would have easily been able to catch up to Nico, or it could have been cut out in order to avoid any controversy that would have resulted from the game letting players shoot a police dog. The Lost and Damned. Biker police ambush. There may have been a mission in the Lost and Damned where Johnny, alongside other members of the Lost Motorcycle Club, would carry out a drive-by shooting on a police vehicle or prison transport. This mission, which essentially was an ambush on law enforcement, might have been cut either for narrative pacing or because it portrayed the biker crew in an irredeemably cop-killing light. I'm pretty sure you guys are going to mention this in the comments, so it is important to note that the final story already has them killing police, but it was usually as a byproduct of other crimes, not a deliberate attack or a deliberate hit on a squad of police. Given GTA's history, it's not shocking, but Rockstar may have felt this particular mission was not essential and better left out in the final release. The Ballad of Gay Tony, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend Bomb. The Ballad of Gay Tony is known for its over-the-top missions compared to the base game of GTA 4, and keeping in with this over-the-top theme, it may have potentially included a cut random encounter with Luis's ex-girlfriend that involved a bomb. In an early interview, Rockstar hinted at a cut mission where Luis Lopez's crazy ex-girlfriend, which is possibly Margot, rigged a bomb to his car out of jealousy. This cut mission was never explicitly mentioned by Rockstar after the fact, but fans did find references in the game files consistent with the general speculated plot of this cut encounter. Grand Theft Auto 5. Alternate ending, Franklin dies. GTA 5 offered 3 ending choices, with 2 leading to the deaths of either Trevor or Michael, and 1 where they all survive. However, it is speculated that Rockstar intended for Franklin to die in one of the endings and to be replaced by Lamar. It's unclear exactly how Franklin would have died. Some say he would have been betrayed by Lamar, though I don't quite believe that, especially given their established relationship in the game. And other people say that Franklin may have sacrificed himself to save Trevor or Michael. Interestingly enough, this was kind of semi-confirmed by Slink Johnson, who was Lamar's voice actor, in a Reddit AMA, that there was going to be a different ending C than the one we got in the final release. However, due to Slink Johnson being unavailable to lend his voice at that time, Rockstar moved on and probably cut out whatever ending it may have been. Slink Johnson does not outright say that Lamar was going to replace Franklin or that Franklin was meant to die, but he did react pretty interestingly to the Reddit question, saying, "Wow, where did you hear that from?" I, like pretty much everyone else, really enjoyed Lamar's character, so it's kind of disappointing to hear that there was more planned for him that ended up being scrapped. Red Dead Redemption. Abigail's kidnapping in the finale. In the mission, The Last Enemy That Shall Be Destroyed, John Marston is confronted by Edgar Ross and the US Army. Unused subtitle text and audio files suggest that John's wife Abigail was originally going to be kidnapped by a soldier during the standoff. John would have then scrambled to rescue Abigail from the officer amidst the shootout. The player was also able to make a decision, choosing to either run, fight, or surrender. Edgar Ross, the lead antagonist, has unused voice lines that hint at this, implying a negotiation or simply taunting John with Abigail as leverage. Rockstar removed this in the final game, obviously, and instead of being kidnapped, Abigail escapes with Jack while John goes to confront Edgar Ross and the army. It's possible that Rockstar felt this was too distracting or melodramatic in the moment, since John's death was already a very powerful ending. And interestingly enough, this idea was actually repurposed for Red Dead Redemption 2, where Abigail gets kidnapped by the Pinkertons, and it was Arthur and Sadie that went to rescue her instead of John. Red Dead Redemption 2. Arthur's child dies in the prologue. In the final game, we learn that Arthur Morgan's lover, Eliza, and their young son Isaac were killed by robbers years before the events of the main game. However, during development, Rockstar intended for Eliza to be alive and a part of the story. Multiple dialogue lines suggest that Eliza would have traveled with the Vanderlyn gang across several camp locations, even having 5 missions involving her. There is also a character model for Eliza found in the game files, as well as references to her appearance in 1907 during the epilogue. The most disturbing aspect of this cut content, however, was Isaac, Arthur's son. According to Roger Clark, the voice actor for Arthur, Rockstar intended to have both Eliza and Isaac as a baby with the gang during their escape into the mountains in the prologue. It is here where Isaac would freeze to death.
Like Arthur opens up about his dead son, and then Rainsfall says, "Hang on a minute, I gotta pick some herbs over here." That bit. So that initially was kind of incorporated at the very beginning of the story, where Arthur had a newborn that froze to death on the way through Coulter, but then that got cut.
Rockstar hasn't publicly talked about this, but the evidence found in the game files and Roger Clark talking about it himself point to a significant last-minute story change. While there is no explanation as to why this was cut, we can speculate that it is most likely to keep Arthur's growth and redemption arc strictly tied to the gang. It could also just be that having a baby freeze to death right at the start of the game would have probably set a very devastating tone that would have pigeonholed the story. Like, it would have been pretty off-putting for the player to witness the death of Arthur's baby and then go on to do the drinking mission with Lenny only a few hours later. And fun fact, it's speculated that the character models for Mrs. Sinclair and baby Francis from the Stranger's Mission Geology for Beginners were repurposed from the character models of Eliza and baby Isaac. And there you have it, disturbing cut content from every Rockstar game. I hope the title wasn't super misleading. I tried my best to find truly disturbing cut content from every game, and while there definitely were some, like Eliza and Isaac from Red Dead 2 and the clowns from Manhunt, some of the others weren't as disturbing but still kinda interesting nonetheless. I also didn't include every single Rockstar game, like I didn't mention Max Payne for example, and that's because the games we talked about today are ones I grew up with and the ones that I'm most familiar with. If you would like me to cover other Rockstar games like Max Payne in a potential part 2, or just to make a video talking about cut content from Rockstar games in general, so like not just disturbing cut content, and of course this time I'll make sure to include every single Rockstar game, make sure to leave a like on this video and make sure to let me know in the comments. I read every single comment that you guys leave on my videos, and if you would like me to do a part 2, then I'll make it happen. Anyways, thank you for watching as always, and I hope to see you next time.